In this video, I'm providing another update on the significant ice event we're expecting this week from Oklahoma and Texas to the Mid-South. The latest details will be in this video. Alright, welcome back into another More Weather Forecast video. Again, you might have heard about it from your local news station, from your national news station, across social media. We are expecting a significant ice event from the southern plains, Oklahoma and Texas, all the way to the Mid-South. So let's get straight into what we're looking at with current conditions right now from Texas to Oklahoma and into Arkansas and Missouri. Right now we do have some freezing drizzle in Dallas and some sleet up towards Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Fayetteville, Arkansas, and Springfield, Missouri. This will intensify as it's going to be our first wave as we go into the afternoon, or later into the afternoon and into the evening, and spread east into Arkansas and eventually to the Memphis region. So that's what we got going on with the current conditions right now. Now let's get straight into what the National Weather Service has for warnings, watches, and advisories. We do have ice storm warnings in the purple there, or the magenta there in Memphis towards Nashville, but not quite to Nashville, up towards Dyersburg into Little Rock. So in those ice storm warnings, that's where we're expecting really big impacts from this ice. In the pink, we do have winter storm warnings. We're really expecting those the ice with this winter storm warning, so not really expecting snow, more of the ice. In the blue here, we do have those winter storm watches, and in the purple there, not the magenta, we do have those winter weather advisories. So we got a lot going on right now from West Virginia into Kentucky, into Tennessee, all the way to Texas, Arkansas, and into Oklahoma here. So we are expecting a lot, as you can tell, with what we got going on with our warnings, watches, and advisories. So let's start forecasting this around the time I'm filming this video at 1 p.m. Looking at the HRRR model, this is a good resolution model. Overall, it is a good model, so this is kind of going to tell us what the radar could look like as we go into the future. So right now we do that freezing drizzle from Dallas into Oklahoma, into northern Arkansas, starting to accrete on those surfaces, especially those overpasses and bridges. As we go into later this afternoon, we're going to see more sleet and freezing rain move into Arkansas and into southeastern Missouri, say into the Boot Heel, Missouri, Cape Girardeau. You're going to be dealing with that sleet by the time we go into 6 p.m. here. In Dallas, you're going to still have freezing drizzle for the next couple of hours until this wave moves out. By the time we go into, say, later tonight, say 9 to 10 p.m., we're still going to be seeing freezing drizzle. But by the time we go into around 9 p.m. here, we are going to see that freezing rain starting to move into Memphis here. In the pink, you can see that's the freezing rain. In the purple, that's the sleet. And in the blue, that is the snow. And we're really going to start seeing that ice accretion into northern Arkansas, into Memphis area, into western Kentucky and Tennessee here as we go into later tonight. And again, this is just the first wave of this series of wintry systems that are going to make for a big ice event. So by the time we go into around midnight, so by the time we go into early tomorrow, very early tomorrow morning, we're still going to see that ice or that freezing rain into Memphis, up towards Dyersburg, up towards Paducah as well here, and that's going to accrete fast. And even if we have freezing drizzle or freezing mist, we're still going to see pretty big impacts. Last night in St. Louis, we had a glaze of ice, a very small glaze of ice with freezing drizzle and mist, but we saw pretty significant travel impacts actually. Semis had to pull over. We saw a 12-car pileup on an interstate and a big uptick in crashes. So the little ice goes a really long way. And so if we get, say, more than a glaze, say up to a quarter of an inch here, think about what that can do to your travel. So even if it's just freezing drizzle, that can still affect things. So this is our first wave that we're expecting from Oklahoma, Texas, into Arkansas, southern Missouri, and into western Kentucky and Tennessee later tonight into early tomorrow. That will get out of here by the time we go into early tomorrow, and then we're going to have some freezing drizzle sticking around for a place like Memphis, but then we'll get a break for Arkansas, Little Rock region, into Memphis, up towards down towards Texarkana here. But then our second wave comes in, looking at around 9 a.m. here on Tuesday. Our second wave comes in, and this is going to really affect places like southern Oklahoma, places into Texas, and that freezing rain is just going to continue to build in these areas. We're going to see that move into Arkansas by the time we go into midday, into the afternoon, into southern Missouri, and moving out of Oklahoma by the time we go into 3 p.m. But you can see we're just going to have this boundary set up. We're going to have enough cold moisture to have this boundary set up from the Memphis, Paducah area into Arkansas, down through Texas and Oklahoma, and through here, and we can extend that into Oklahoma and these parts of Texas as well. we're going to see constant freezing rain, constant freezing drizzle, and mist, and that's not going to be a good situation for a lot of these places like Little Rock, like Memphis, like Dallas here, and we're just going to see this ice start to accrete here, and we're going to see a lot of it. So even if it's, just a quarter of an inch, that's still going to cause big problems here, big travel impacts. So as you can see, we're having multiple waves. The first wave tonight, then into tomorrow, pretty much all day from Texas into Arkansas and especially Memphis. And you can see the trend here. A lot of freezing rain in a place like Memphis into western Tennessee, and a lot of freezing rain into a place like Dallas, Fort Worth area. So those are two areas, as well as Little Rock, where we are going to see significant icing because of this ice storm, and those are going to be hot spots where we're going to see a lot of ice here. By the time we go into later on Wednesday, so looking at around 10 or 11 p.m. At this point, we're still seeing that ice in Memphis. We're still seeing that ice in Dallas. And during these hours, we're just having that constant training of ice. This is when that's going to really accrete on the ground. We're going to have major travel impacts. We're going to have power outages likely, and it's not going to be a good recipe. It's going to be a recipe for big, major impacts. So by the time we go into early Wednesday, another wave starts into Texas. And this could be very significant. We're talking Dallas. We're talking down towards Waco, over towards Abilene and San Angelo, as well as towards Austin. In these areas, this is when we're going to pick up a lot of ice accretion or accumulation here on the ground. We're looking at around 6 a.m. here, and we're seeing that ice in these places into Waco, into Dallas, into, say, over towards San Angelo, Midland, and into Abilene here. And in these places, we could pick up ice pretty fast, and there's interstates through here that are going to be hard to travel on. We're going to have multiple car crashes, but to limit the amount of car crashes, just stay inside, because this is going to be a pretty significant event in these areas into northern Texas, central Texas, and western Texas. We're really going to see that ice with these just rounds and rounds of waves of this freezing rain. Now, to look even more into the future, we're going to have to lower our resolution to the NAM model. So looking past Wednesday here, or looking into Wednesday, we're looking at 9 a.m. Again, we're going to see that freezing rain build into Texas, build into southern Oklahoma, causing major impacts with our third wave at this point. Then we're going to see that move into Arkansas, towards the Memphis area, more freezing rain. Again, southern Oklahoma, northern Texas. By this point, we're looking at around midnight here, so we're going into early Thursday. But you just saw throughout Wednesday in these areas from Texas over towards Arkansas and Memphis, we're going to be just dealing with constant freezing rain. And that, again, like I said, is not a good recipe. And then by the time we go into early on Thursday here, by the time we go into 6 a.m., we are going to see some snow build into the panhandle of Texas, into central, western, and northern Texas, and still seeing some freezing drizzle. But by the time we go into Friday here, or late on Thursday into early Friday, this should be all out of here. But you just saw multiple waves. We're looking at 3 major waves of wintry precip here, mainly freezing rain. And what does that add up to? Big ice accretion here into Texas, southern Oklahoma, especially towards Arkansas, into the eastern regions. So here's our hot spots here into Texas, say DFW, over towards Midland, San Angelo, and Waco here, as well as Abilene. You can see into western Texas, northern Texas, and central Texas, Austin including this as well. We're looking at probably quarter of an inch to maybe 2/4 of an inch, and maybe up to an inch, from a half an inch to an inch here in some isolated spots. So we're talking DFW area, Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're talking up towards Memphis, into Arkansas, into western Tennessee, and western Kentucky here. We're talking probably around, I'd say, a quarter of an inch, maybe up to 2/4 of an inch, if we get that really freezing rain start to build in here, and we get that for a long period of time. And this model may be even underdoing it. A lot of people have been talking about how these models aren't really aren't really showing the ice accretion very well, because we could see, if we just have a lot of freezing drizzle, if a little bit of freezing drizzle is going to accrete fast, even if it's mist or freezing drizzle, and some of the models aren't taking that into account, so we could see even higher totals than this. But we're expecting probably a fourth of an inch into Little Rock, over towards Memphis. That's pretty significant. And of course, Dallas, we're expecting significant impacts in these hot spots near Dallas, over towards San Angelo and Abilene, and over towards Memphis is where we're going to have those most significant impacts. You need to start preparing for this. If you are in these areas, you need to start getting prepared. You need to start, gassing up those generators even, because we could, if you're in these areas that are expecting a lot of ice, we could have widespread power outages. It just depends how much ice you get. Up to a half an inch, we're talking about widespread power outages. Do not travel. If you don't have to, do not go out on these roads. They are going to be covered in ice. It is not going to be a good situation. So again, if you don't have to travel, just stay home. And we could have power outages, so just get prepared for this if you're in these areas. I'm not trying to scare you guys. This is not going to be the most historic ice storm we've ever seen in our lives, but this is very significant, and we need to take this seriously if we are in these areas that are going to be affected. So the last thing we're going to look at here is the SPIA index, which is kind of the damage index, or what to expect here. If we're talking glaze, we're talking about the ice damage impacts here with 1. If we're talking a glaze here, we're going to see some isolated or localized power outages here, but still a little bit of ice goes a long way, so a little bit of ice can still cause car accidents. Once we get into level 2, we're talking about scattered power outages, lasting typically from 12 to 24 hours. Roads and travel conditions may be extremely hazardous. So we're talking about up to half an inch here. We're talking about very, very extremely hazardous road conditions here, and it's just that little bit of ice, that little glaze, that can cause these roads to just go into complete places where we can't really travel on them. And then by the time we go into level 3, that's when we have numerous power outages. And then by the time we go into level 4, we'll have prolonged and widespread power outages. Most people are going to get into this 1 to 2 level, but that's still significant. And then some people here in these places, in these hot spots from Texas over towards Memphis, are going to get in on possibly 3, and some very isolated spots could get in on possibly 4. So this just shows you need to be prepared if you are expecting ice. So that about wraps up this More Weather Forecast video. Again, major ice event from the Southern Plains to the Mid-South. Make sure you are prepared. Make sure you go subscribe to my YouTube channel here. Follow me on Twitter. As always, stay prepared out there, especially if you're in these areas that are expecting significant ice from this ice storm. And I will see you soon with more weather.